In 1932, a British mathematician and computer scientist named Alan Turing wrote a paper titled Uncomputable in Numbers. In it, he described a hypothetical machine that could solve any mathematical problem that could be expressed in logical terms. He called it a universal machine, and it would go on to become known as the computer. But back in the 1930s, people didn't really care much about computers. They were a little bit worried about something else: World War II. The Germans had developed a new encryption device that could generate billions of possible combinations every second. They called it Enigma. It was basically unbreakable, but one man thought he might just be up to the task of breaking it. That man was Alan Turing, and in this video, we'll explore how he did it, what it means for the future of technology, and some other stuff too. This is a series that takes you to the very heart of some of science and math's biggest breakthroughs. And today, we're looking at the Aztec Chinampas, which are neither science nor math, but they are pretty cool. Also, if you want to see how this channel is made, check out the video link below. Around 1473, the Aztec Empire began to expand rapidly. It was a bustling metropolis located in what is now Mexico City. And because it was a city located in a valley surrounded by mountains, its population grew quickly. There just wasn't anywhere else for them to go. Now, to make matters worse, these lands weren't exactly fertile. Soil was scarce, so farming was difficult. But like all civilizations, the Aztecs needed food, so they took what little land there was and turned it into farmland. They built Chinampas. These were artificial islands used for planting crops. Now, contrary to popular belief, these weren't floating gardens. Floating gardens are typically associated with ancient Chinese. This is because the Chinampa system was actually based around canals. Water hyacinths and other plants would grow in between the strips of farmland and eventually intertwine to form a sort of floating garden. Now, it's important to state that the Chinampa system wasn't exclusive to the Aztecs. Other Mesoamerican cultures such as the Xayca and the Tarascans used similar methods of farming. However, it was the Aztecs who perfected the technique and utilized it across their vast empire. There are several reasons why the Aztecs were able to perfect the Chinampa system. One reason was their understanding of local plants. For example, the Aztecs knew that broadleaf plants such as squash would shade the smaller plants beneath them. So they would plant squash near maize, beans, and other crops that need more shade. Another reason was the introduction of new tools and techniques. For example, the Aztecs were the first Mesoamerican culture to use the hoe, which allowed them to turn over the soil more easily. But perhaps the most important reason was simply that the Aztecs were really good farmers. Over time, they developed a deep understanding of how plants grow and what they need to thrive. This knowledge, combined with their understanding of the local environment and their skill in engineering and construction, allowed them to create a sophisticated Chinampa system that provided food for millions of people. Unfortunately, the Spanish conquistadors didn't understand any of this. When they arrived in the 16th century, they saw a complex network of canals and artificial islands and assumed that the Aztecs were lazy. They claimed that the Aztecs didn't want to get their hands dirty farming, so they floated gardens instead. This myth has persisted for centuries, even though there's no evidence to support it. In fact, there's a lot of evidence to refute it. For example, we know that the Aztecs kept detailed records of their agricultural practices. These records show that they carefully planned and managed their farms, and that they understood the importance of crop rotation and soil conservation. We also know that the Aztecs were skilled engineers and that they designed their Chinampa system to be efficient and sustainable. The system was able to produce enough food to feed the empire's growing population, and it did so without depleting the soil or polluting the water. Despite all of this evidence, the myth persists. Perhaps that's because it's a flattering myth. It is a story about a sophisticated and advanced civilization that was willing to do whatever it took to survive. Or maybe it is just a story that people like to tell themselves because it is fun. An interesting story. Whatever the reason, it's important to remember that the story is just that, a story. The Aztecs were not lazy. They were skilled and resourceful farmers who created one of the most sophisticated agricultural systems in the ancient world. If you think that sounds impressive, wait until you hear about what Alan Turing did during World War II. At the start of World War II, the Germans were using Enigma to encrypt messages that they sent to each other. And as you can probably guess, this was a huge problem for the Allies. If they couldn't read the Germans' messages, then they couldn't effectively fight against them. Now, the Germans thought that Enigma was unbreakable, and for good reason. The machine was incredibly complex and could generate billions of different combinations every second. But Alan Turing was up to the task. Now, Turing wasn't alone. He had a team of people working with him, including mathematicians, engineers, and former school teachers. Together, they set out to break the Enigma code. Now, Turing was a brilliant mathematician, but he wasn't a magician. He didn't just wake up one day and suddenly figure out how to break the Enigma code. It took him and his team years of hard work and dedication. They experimented with different ways of attacking the Enigma code, trying to find a weakness that they could exploit. Eventually, they came up with a plan. They would build a machine that could do the hard work for them. A machine that could test thousands of possible Enigma settings in just a few minutes. This machine would come to be known as the bomb. The bomb was an early computer that used a series of rotating wheels to simulate the Enigma machine. By manipulating the wheels in different ways, the bomb could test thousands of possible Enigma settings. And when it found a match, it would alert the code breakers. It took a year to build the bomb, but in the end, it was worth it. With the help of the bomb, the code breakers were able to read many of the German messages. This gave the Allies a valuable intelligence advantage. We don't know exactly how much the bombs helped the Allies, but historians agree that it was a major factor in the Allied victory. After the war, Turing was knighted for his services to the government. He continued to work for the government until his death in 1954. Turing's legacy is a complicated one. He was a brilliant mathematician and computer scientist who made major contributions to our understanding of how the mind works. He was also a gay man who lived in a time when homosexuality was illegal and that cost him dearly. In 1952, Turing was arrested for gross indecency after entering into a relationship with a man. He was offered the chance to undergo aversion therapy, which he refused. He was then sentenced to 7 years in prison. Turing died of cyanide poisoning in 1954. It's widely believed that he took his own life. Turing was finally pardoned in 1976, but his legacy continues to inspire people around the world. His work helped to lay the foundations for the modern computer, and his story is a reminder of the importance of tolerance and acceptance. So if you're ever feeling down about the state of the world, just remember that there are people out there who are working to make it a better place, just like Alan Turing. And if you want to learn more about those people, stay tuned. You probably don't think about computers much, you just use them. But they didn't just appear. A lot of very smart people work very hard to make them possible. We hope you learned something from this video, and we hope you'll stick around to learn more. That's all for this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit subscribe. See you next time.